Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to discuss what to do when your dog is stoned. There are a few videos out there, but probably not many from an individual who's worked in the cannabis space full-time for the last 6 years. So here's my take on it. Identifying symptoms of marijuana toxicity in a dog consists of wobbly movements like a person who is drunk, dribbling or urinating, soiling themselves, a dazed look, low temperature or nervousness. If you notice right away that your dog ate an edible, call your vet to determine the best way to help the dog vomit and avoid further problems. Hydrogen peroxide is one way to induce vomiting. Personally, I've never done that. It's always been too late. And so if it is too late and your dog is already showing signs of marijuana ingestion, exhaustion, wobbly legs, or urinating, soiling oneself, it might be too late to induce vomiting. Once a dog has ingested cannabis, their body functions could be affected for over a day. Personally, I just had a puppy that ate a little bit of a cookie by accident that crumbled and fell apart as I was judging the High Times Cup in Portland. And I would walk my dog 2 days later, and my dog would show signs, as you're seeing, of being overdosed on cannabis. And that was days later. So as they exercise, as they burn fat, it could get them high again. So just know that if your dog is heavy or even lean, even absorbing some of that cannabis via an edible could burn off later and get them high again. If they are showing signs of being high, keep them in a safe place, comfort them. It's fairly normal for people and pets to ingest things. For example, California's poison hotline gets 700 calls a day asking the same question: is this blank harmful? Not necessarily just cannabis, but just in general. But emergency room visits for pets eating cannabis has surged 765% over the last decade. Normally, emergency operators get a call about pets that have eaten chocolate or cats that have chewed on a pot plant. They're increasingly dealing with stoned pets. So in 2008, they only received 208 calls about consuming cannabis, whereas in 2018, they received more than 1,800. The raisins, chocolate, or other sugars in edible cannabis products can be very dangerous for dogs, especially dependent on the size. If you have a young puppy or a smaller dog and they eat a chocolate edible, I would bring the dog in if it is wobbling and drooling and urinating on itself. That's the key indicator. If they're soiling and urinating on themselves, they are way too high. Bring them in. I had to spend $750 to pump my dog's stomach. Seemed like a waste of money, but I don't want my dog to have seizures or issues that could happen as a result of cannabis toxicity for small and young dogs. Outside of a pet urinating or soiling itself, I wouldn't bring a dog or a pet into the vet. There's really not a lot they can do. As this article goes on to say, quote, there's nothing about the actual drug itself that will kill them. It doesn't cause any organ failure. It doesn't cause liver failure, renal failure. What can happen is that the drug can sedate a dog so fully that will inhale its own vomit, which can be lethal. Veterinarians can try and induce vomiting. They can pump a dog's stomach or give the dog an active charcoal, which helps remove the cannabis from the dog's system. That's exactly what my vet did. They just gave him charcoal and made sure my puppy was hydrated. So this article says that on average, it takes about 24 hours for a dog to return to normal, but varies depending on the strength and amount of cannabis the dog has eaten. And I would go on to say that if you have an edible and there is a fat content like butter or something that's holding that in, you could experience multiple highs. So again, it could be days later and you take them on a walk, they're running around and they burn that fat, they will get high again. One emergency vet joked that said they were going to take your dog in, they were going to put him in a quiet room, play some Led Zeppelin, and give him some Doritos, and you can pick him up in the morning. Some vets might charge $300. You could pay upwards of $1,000. Again, I paid $750 to keep my puppy hydrated and have charcoal and a very expensive babysitter. Had my puppy not urinated on herself, I wouldn't have brought her in. I've had a previous puppy that died of cancer. I've seen her get into my stash. And again, you just wait it out. You can hug them and love them, give them water, just let them know that they're safe. There's not much you can do. And that's what all of these articles are kind of just going to let you know about. This article from The Guardian says you're not going to die, how to survive an edible marijuana overdose. They said watch a movie. The American Veterinarian Medical Association said that cannabis produces a high for human, but is toxic to dogs and can cause vomiting, incoordination, depression, sleepiness, excitation, low blood sugar, low body temperature, and seizures. So in 2019, The Animal Poison Control Center reported a 765% increase in calls about cannabis ingestion by animals over the same period last year. The Pet Poison Helpline reported that over 400 increases in cannabis related calls over the past 6 years. They note that edibles such as brownies and candies are a particular concern, with additional risks being the ingredients with chocolates and raisins, sugar free sweeteners that could compound their toxicity. So, if your pet shows any signs of marijuana toxicity, if they appear off balance, rigid, nervous, if they're drooling, dribbling urine, vocalizing, or having seizures, please get them to a veterinarian as soon as possible. And then there are some articles out there from, Market Watch, why you shouldn't give your pet CBD or cannabis. This is from a toxicologist. They were out in Florida and they saw some cannabis products in Florida and they just didn't understand. And I would agree with that. When I went to Puerto Rico, I went through Miami, and I wouldn't touch those products either. There's another article that says that you don't give your dog CBD, according to a veterinarian. What they actually say is that it's based on that they can't recommend it, that there's no law, that they have no dosage that they can recommend or approved pet friendly dispensaries. So the lack of options, the lack of availability for them to write a script, and get paid basically, is the reason why they're saying not to do it. They mentioned, though, that 89% of dogs who received CBD in clinical trials had a reduction in the frequency of seizures. I've also seen an inverse relationship in CBD to THC. So in theory, uh, since dogs also have an endocannabinoid system just like humans, that if they had CBD, that would reduce the effects of THC. Now, I'm no doctor. I have no idea if that's the case. I don't know. But in theory, it seems right logically. But to close this out, this article says that the case of cannabis overdoses, most of the time, all a vet can do is make sure that the animal is safe and well hydrated. In most instances, they just have to write it out. So be safe, be responsible, come back to the Talking Hedge. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.